Agradan.
That's the name I was looking for. Patricia what?
Patricia Asiedu.
Asiedu, okay.
Also known as.
So the story as I've told is correct. She held an all-night service on Friday.
Yes.
And promised to do what?
So according to some sources, I don't want to be conclusive on the matter, but according to some sources, she claimed that she would be able to double, in some instances, triple, quadruple amounts of money given to her in church. However, on the other side, what she said was that, or in her defense, was that she didn't say she was going to double money, and what she was asking for was a donation. And that it was the minds of the congregation that once they give the donation, they were expecting the money to be doubled.
By her?
By her.
At the same time?
I'm not very sure if they mean at the same time or they mean they should go and come back for the money. And I think the rationale behind that was they remember what she was doing at her old spots.
As a fetish?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And at that time she was at Kaswa, and then she had another branch at Pukwase. She used to do it on Thunder TV. I think I watched some episodes.
And she was able to double money?
Oh, on screen for you to see, but I can't
so
speak.
She sort of purported to double money.
Exactly. So
okay.
She'll be sitting in her batakari behind the pots, and then she'll be kili, and then you come and give the money, she puts it in the pots, and then she'll be shaking. You open it, and then a full juice bag, and you see people excited.
Juice bag?
Yeah, juice bag of money, and they'll be carrying it on Thunder TV, on TV. So she was charged 10,000.
That's called Sika Gari.
Sika Gari. Yeah. You know Gari when you were in SS.
Yeah.
In SS, I wasn't eating Gari.
Okay. I ate Gari.
The masses.
Yeah. You mean how it builds up? How the Gari builds up?
Yes.
So what she was saying that this is a Sika that can grow like Gary grows when you pour water on it.
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly.
So then when she's now moved from fetish into gospel.
Yes.
And then on Friday she held an all night.
Yes.
Now the allegation is that she promised this kind of doubling money.
Yes.
But she said she didn't make that promise.
Yes, and that she was asking for donations or contributions to her church.
Okay. So but she also said in the video that some people were actually giving money. Not by doubling it, but by she handing over money to them. She said that.
Yes.
And that there were some people who didn't get some of the money, but she couldn't have given it to everyone. And that the offering that they gave was not a basis for her to give them money. She was giving the money anyway. The offering is a different matter. And she asked for offering from 1,000 Ghana cedis all the way to 1 Ghana cedis. It's
actually something she does. So she gives, if you follow her ministry, she gives cloth at times, and the cloth is believed to possess certain spiritual powers. She gives money at times, and she gives alms. And so people actually leave, long distances to come to her church. And then they get the cloth. And once they get the cloth, you are supposed to put the cloth on your head. And then you stand in front. I think we even have the video of her singing and dancing with the members with the cloth on their head.
Okay, yes. We'll take that video soon. So let's go to this one. It says she was arrested and arraigned before the Accra Circuit Court with the following charges. 1, defrauding by false pretenses contrary to Section 131 of the Criminal Code and Other Offences Act 1960, Act 29. Number 2, what's that? Charlatanic advertisements contrary to Section 137. But is this old?
This is Act 29.
Yeah, I know, but I mean in terms of charging her with this, is this an old offense? This is not related to Friday, is it?
No, this is related to Friday again.
Has she made advertisements ahead of the Friday or during the service?
So they are alleging that there has been constant, she has been using Thunder TV and Ice One TV to constantly advertise these things that she can multiply money purportedly. And so they are saying that by virtue of those, instances, which culminated to the events on Friday, she is being charged with.
I don't know whether you tell us here, Apreku, the
element or the ingredient.
No, not that. The offense. How long a person will be jailed if she's found guilty? Do you tell us that?
So it's a second-degree felony. However, the judge has discretion. A misdemeanor is maximum 3 years. Second-degree felony is 3 upwards. And so,
what's the maximum for second-degree felony?
Second-degree, I think 10.
10 is the maximum.
Yes, okay. But the judge has discretion. The judge has discretion to sort of wade into and say, okay, maybe you have 4, you would have 5, and so it depends.
So here, it says, whoever defrauds any person by any false pretense shall be guilty of a second-degree felony. That's what you're talking about.
Okay.
All right. A person is guilty of defrauding by false pretenses if by any means or any false pretense or by impersonation, she obtains the consent of another to part with or transfer ownership of anything. This is interesting.
Yeah.
A person is guilty of defrauding by false pretenses if, by means of any false pretense or by personation, he obtains the consent. Okay. So consent obtained through your false pretenses
exactly
is makes you guilty of defrauding by false pretenses.
Yes, and the consent.
This one looks like it's okay here.
And the consent must culminate in you parting with something.
So the money.
Yes, but
okay. Let's get there, because if I go to church and I give offering 500 cedis.
Yes.
And the pastor says, so this end of the month as usual, and pastor comes and says that let's read Malachi 31. And then the special pastor, some pastors are specialized for the Malachi 31 thing. So sometimes the lead pastor will sit aside and then some pastor will come and he's the one who always does Malachi 31.
Yeah,
Bishop James is an expert of Malachi 31. So James will come and Archbishop will be seated and James will come and talk about Malachi 31. It says that if you give, he will open the windows of heaven and pour out blessing unto you that you will not have enough place to keep. So they tell us that one. Then they also tell us, if you give, and it shall be given unto you, shaking together, running over, press down. Men would press down is almost like the pot thing. Yes. Press down, shaking together, running over. Men will give unto your bosom. So based on that, I go and give 500 cedis. So is that defrauded by false pretenses?
You see, that is general a bit, in the sense that it pertains to faith. So there's a difference. If I say that, in my opinion, if someone says that, Bishop, I do not think that's defrauded by false pretenses. But if a pastor says that, I see that anybody who gives me 500 cedis by the end of this month would have a car.
Matthew Ashimolo does that at the Greater Works. 24 hours. He limits us to 24 hours. Yes, 24-hour miracle. Give me $1,000. In 24 hours, you will receive a significant blessing.
You see, that's a significant blessing. A significant blessing is not specific.
Well, but the law says, a person is guilty of defrauding by false pretenses if, by means of any false pretense or by personation, which will cover those things we're talking about, he obtains the consent of another person to part with or transfer ownership of anything. So I part with the money and I transfer it into the ownership of the church. Because Matthew Ashimolo said to me that if you do this within 24 hours, but the important thing about criminal prosecution is that there has to be a complainant. So if nobody complains about Matthew Ashimolo, then that's okay.
But even if somebody complains, are we really ready for a society that supports people reporting on their pastors on issues like this, or the men of God on issues like this?
Well, the way the law is designed, there's a temptation for any lawyer to advise a client to go and report to the police. Because false pretenses, personation, the obtaining of consent is classic, really classic.
But can you tell if
that's different from the Catholic priest?
Yes.
Who does not even talk about the offering. Offering is on the timetable of the church. And when it's offering time, they begin the processes for offering. He doesn't say anything about it. When the offering is gathered, he comes and he says, Dominus Vobiscum, Amen. They are done. They don't say Malachi, they don't do that. Okay. So, I mean, that's different. That one you can't say false pretenses, personation, but the one that the charismatics do, which we're used to, which we all benefit from, because I believe in that. I believe in the faith. I believe that Malachi 3:31 works. I believe that if you give, it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaking together. I believe it.
So do you think that someone should go to the police and report to pastor based on that? Because he is also speaking on authority.
So I'm thinking the prosecution are going to struggle because you were relying on your faith.
Exactly. And that is what I keep saying.
Which we do all the time. We all rely on our faith.
Relying on faith. And so if you have to rely on faith, then it will be hard in this instance. As I said, we don't want to open the floodgates and give, people, if she's
found guilty of this,
exactly,
then the High Court would have set. Is it a High Court, by the way?
For the circuit court.
The circuit court. The circuit court would have set up.
But I mean, even if the circuit court that decides it's going to be a persuasive precedent where people will say, oh, but this has been done before.
It's going to set a very dangerous precedent on how we can go and say, Matthew Ashimolo said I should give $1,000. I didn't get anything. Let's go and catch him.
And that is why I think
under section 132.
I think that if we have a church and we are all worshiping, we should just let people give from the abundance of their hearts. But all this, give this and this shall be, given, or give this and this shall be given.
The Shunammite woman, the Shunammite woman in the historical Bible, and also the prophet who told the lady that you have bread, give it to me, and then do the last one, let's eat it, and then after that you'll be fine. And then the woman said, all I have is just for me and my child, and we are dead. And the prophet said, no, you may die, but you give it to me, and let's see what happens. He doubled it, he tripled it, he quadrupled it.
But Act 29 wasn't there.
It wasn't there, but that's the faith that we have inherited. You see?
Yes, so the reason I am saying that
the controversy for the modern development of the law is how to place the faith within the context of a prosecution.
Exactly.
Very, very complicated.
Exactly.
Let's see how this...
Particularly how it seems they are picking on Agradan only. Because...
No, she's the one who has been reported.
Yeah, she's the one who has been reported, but...
Yeah, but when the video came around...
When it comes out, people jump on...
Yeah, people say go and arrest Agradan. I saw people on Facebook say, why has Agradan not been arrested?
Yes.
What's the point?
But when it's someone else...
Is it because she speaks in Tree and she's not a very distinguished, pastor who slangs and says, hallelujah be to the resurrected Lord?
Her history. It's her history.
Yeah, but we can't use her history to punish her for something that everybody does. Something that is faith.
You see, not everybody promises to double money.
No, not double. Matthew Ashimolo says within 24 hours something will happen. If nothing happens, he's falling foul of the law.
No, but you see, if nothing happens, he says it's a miracle, right? And nothing happens. He doesn't have personal control of miracles that come from heaven.
Yes, but his personation got him to obtain consent from me to produce $100 to the church offering bowl.
On faith basis, she is saying that allegedly that she can double money that belongs created by the Bank of Ghana.
Yeah, by the power of the Spirit that she's subscribing
to. Even if there's going to be a miracle, maybe I'll be there and then Paul will come and give me the money.
Yes, that's what we subscribe to.
That is fundamentally different from saying that Bank of Ghana 10 CD notes will become 20 CD notes.
That's quite technical, but the Ashimolo has, by personation, obtained the consent of another person.
How is it by personation if he believes it's...
Ashimolo says, remember, come and give... I discussed that with somebody. Well, at that time, the person was a minister, and I asked him that, Senior, this Ashimolo thing, because I subscribe to that big time. I'm a fundamentalist in that. So I was asking him that, this Ashimolo thing, is this something we can do something about? Because the whole world is bashing us for this and that. And he said, look, Leonard, it happened to me. I was riding in my car on my way to Ashimolo's event, and I heard him. And I said, okay, let me try it. And he said within 24 hours, he got a lot of financial blessing after doing it at 7 p.m. The next day by 4 p.m. before he went back to the Independence Square, something had happened.
Exactly, but the cash didn't multiply. You see,
somebody gave him cash bigger than what he gave to the church.
The essential elements of every crime, there are two things that must be satisfied. There must be a mens rea and an actus reus. The mens rea is the criminal mind, and the actus reus is the criminal act.
Why is the criminal mind in a faith-based situation?
The criminal mind is you knowing that indeed what you are doing is not going to... She knows that the money is not going to multiply. Allegedly.
But she didn't say she's multiplying money in this regard. Did she say
I'm saying that, assuming.
Okay, but
we are talking on the assumption that she said
that she gave money to people. She said, give money and I'll give you money.
And
she did give money to people on the Friday.
What are those?
Yeah, so she said that if you didn't get...
And that is why I am saying that for all other members or for all other pastors, if you want to prove and say they have fallen foul of Section 132, then it behooves on you to show that indeed, as at when they were making those promises, they had a criminal mind. The criminal mind may be intent, knowledge, negligence, recklessness.
How do you recognize, isolate, and determine a criminal mindset within the context of faith?
It is the duty of the prosecution, and it's the duty of the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubts.
That's where the problem is going to be.
Exactly. So that's for that one.
I think it's the prosecution directed more by social media, but it's okay for us to get these definitions out and see the standard that we can work with.
It's good because we have to also evolve and define certain things. I mean, Act 29 is 1960.
Yeah, but it's been amended. Act 29 has been...
I mean, yes. It's been amended many times. Many times, yes. But I mean, there are many provisions, for instance.
What are you telling us here? He said, a consent shall not be deemed to have been obtained by a false representation as to the quality or value of a thing, unless the thing is substantially worthless for the purpose for which it is represented to be fit. Okay, so assuming somebody gave 1 cedi, is that what you're saying? 1 cedi coin. That's what you mean here.
Yes, that if the thing is worthless, if I am representing to you that I can give you this iPhone 14 and then it ends up being soup, the worth of iPhone 14 and so clearly it's a difference. So the consent is cannot be obtained. Even if I had given the consent, I had given the consent for an iPhone 14, not soup. Even if the soup looks like
I see
iPhone
what
14.
you mean. So that
so
if
the
you
value,
give me something in return, which is worthless compared to what I gave.
Exactly.
So she's asking for 1,000 cedis. If she gives you back 500 cedis, it's worthless?
It's not
up to what, 1,000?
What was the bargain?
That I'll double 1,000.
Exactly. So if you didn't double 1,000, then the 500.
When an individual presents himself within this context, strictly by the law, and goes into a situation where he's expecting his 1,000 to be physically doubled in a dramatic spiritual way, is that also not an offense? Because that's legal tender. The money is legal tender,
yes,
regulated by the Bank of Ghana. And you go into a process where you are believing that if you tender a 50 cedi note, that 50 cedi note will metamorphose itself by some dramatic way to become 1,000.
Good. And that's why I went back and I was talking to you about Ashimolowo's own. You see, in Peter, in the book of Peter, I think 1st or 2nd Peter, one of them, I've forgotten the verse and chapter. But it says that honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. In the sense that the laws of man must be complied with. With Ashimolowo's own, it's a supernatural law. At times you can feel so much to do something for somebody. It is grace. I believe in that thing. There are some people, everywhere they go, they are liked, they are favored. It is grace. That is supernatural. That is different. It's not the purview of man. But once you say that this tends, I don't know if you have physical cash here for me to hold as, can you give me money for me to hold?
The lawyer wants to demonstrate.
I'll demonstrate.
Okay, I'll give you a 50 cedi note.
Oh,
you want more?
If I can get.
Well, why do you need more? It's just a demonstration you are doing.
Oh, valuable demonstration. But
so this is a 50 cedi note, legal tender.
Once you take 50 cedi notes, it is no longer anything about supernatural laws or laws of God or whatever. This is the law of man. It is Bank of Ghana. Anybody who tells you that I am going to double this I am going to double this legal tender and make it 100 cedis, is basically toying with the laws of man, because in this instance, it cannot be doubled. It is Bank of Ghana.
So if I submit myself to that, should the prosecution be looking for me as well?
You were
submitted.
You are the victim. You are the complainant.
Yeah, but why must I, a law-abiding citizen, submit myself to something without reporting the person who is asking to do this? I should be telling the police that there's no Agradan here. Okay. This is what she's doing. She's violating the banking laws. But if I submit myself to it and become a complainant in this instance, should the police be looking for me as well as a contributor to the mens rea?
Well, that is, and it then goes to mens rea, because if me, Nana Agradan, I'm not going to Agradan, but if I believe that this is legal tender and I'm going to multiply it for you, it means that I have an intent of malice. I know it cannot be multiplied.
Multiplying this is illegal.
Exactly. So,
but when she says multiply, does it mean that she will take your 50 and friends available to her?
I would have said, when I said double, I did not mean double in the sense of the money
multiplying it times 2.
Exactly. I could take the value of the 50 cedis and give you value of 100 cedis. Value of 100 cedis is different from multiplying 50 cedis to 100 cedis.
Yeah, but that's an easy call. Her lawyers will be able to put that.
Exactly. That is what I would say. But you see, you shouldn't put the cart before the horse. I would have waited, or I would wait for them to prove everything, and essentially for them to prove mens rea, particularly mens rea in issues of spirituality.
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, how do you prove mens rea in the context of faith? That's really complicated. Very interesting.
And there's also another interesting law.
On what basis are they able to deny her police inquiry bail?
Okay, so for police inquiry bail is often subject to the discretion of the police. Often they are the ones who they ask for surety, they just sign, and then we have bail where you go to court, where the court denies, and that is what Aisha Wang, So Aisha Wang is facing. So generally, all offenses are bailable. All offenses are bailable doesn't mean we should give bail in all offenses. So the table is breakable. It doesn't mean the table should break. That's the rationale we are using. However, we use certain considerations, the safety of the accused.
Yeah.
Right now, if you are releasing her to go, people are very angry. They can go in. You remember when this pastor who is at Odoko, Usu Bempa, gave a prophecy about the chief imam and what happened at his church. So the rationale is we may be keeping her in custody to keep her safe. she may have the opportunity to interfere with investigations because she's influential in the lives of the complainants. And remember that in law, relationships between pastors and followers, doctors and patients, and it's fiduciary because it's believed that it sways some sort of influence over them, yeah. Exactly. So they believe that it is possible, or it may be possible, for her to influence these people and sort of tweak their testimonies by threatening them. If the pastor says that I see that you will die in 1 week time, I'll stop, I won't go and continue.